A new report claims that four-time NFL MVP Aaron Rodgers will, in fact, sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers at some point this offseason, and they claim to know when they think that Rodgers will sign with the Steelers as well. Before we give you guys the latest Aaron Rodgers update here on Steelers Talk, make sure you guys are subscribed, because when and if Aaron Rodgers signs with the Black and Gold, we will be going live on this channel for extensive breaking news coverage to break down the start of the Aaron Rodgers saga here in Pittsburgh. Now, let's get into the update here where the NFL insider on X, the quote-unquote People's Insider, Ricky, claims in his post yesterday that Aaron Rodgers will, in fact, sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers before the start of the 2025 NFL season, but he's not going to sign until, quote, shortly before the start of Steelers training camp, which begins on July 23, when the team and the players have to report. This is what Ricky posted yesterday. Rick can confirm Panda Watch, which is his term for the Rodgers saga, will eventually end, and that Aaron Rodgers will be signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers shortly before their training camp in July, per sources. Hashtag here we go, hashtag day 86 of Panda Watch. Now, you might be saying at home, but Jack, isn't Ricky the one that said that Brandon Ayuk was going to be going to the Pittsburgh Steelers last offseason and was wrong? Yeah, I mean, he did say that. Now, I will, to be fair to Ricky, he did kind of walk that back. The longer that Brandon Ayuk saga went on, he did continue to say, the chances that he goes back to San Francisco are getting greater and greater. And then he did post that photo of the white smoke just hours before Ayuk ended up signing his contract extension with the 49ers. But Ricky also has gotten a lot of stuff right this offseason, including the George Pickens trade, where hours before the Steelers traded Pickens to the Dallas Cowboys, he was the first one with the scoop saying that the Steelers were going to make a big move, and he hinted that it was going to be a George Pickens trade. So he nailed that scoop, and now he's claiming to have another one on the Pittsburgh Steelers here, saying that Aaron Rodgers will sign shortly before the start of Steelers training camp in Latrobe, which of course begins with the players reporting on July 23rd. But I will say, Aaron Rodgers' circle is extremely tight-lipped, and that is why we haven't really heard a whole lot from Rodgers this offseason, and why a lot of the stuff that we hear about him is kind of pure speculation in terms of when he's going to sign, in terms of what he's thinking. There's been a lot of speculation out there. So the idea that Ricky has a source on Rodgers and he knows for a fact that he's going to sign with the Steelers and that he knows when he's going to sign with the Steelers, I think is a dubious proposition at best, but he has been right in the past, so it is worth talking about. But what I will say here is that if this report is true, and Ricky does know that Rodgers has already decided he wants to play, and he wants to play for the Steelers, and he's not going to sign until July, that means two things. Number one, Rodgers has already decided to play, and he wants to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's already made up his mind. And then number two, he is purposely going to drag this out until July. So he already knows he's going to play for the Steelers this year, but he is also actively dragging this saga out, if this report is true, of course. So my question when it comes to this report, when I see that he's going to sign with the Steelers, he wants to play for the Steelers, all this different stuff, but he's not going to sign until July, my question is, why wait, right? If you know you want to play and you know you want to play for the Steelers, why not just sign on with the team? Especially because, there's nothing that really goes on between June 13th and July 22nd, right? Even if he has personal stuff in his life that's going on right now, there's no official practices, there's no official team activities between the end of mandatory minicamp on July 12th and the player report date for training camp on July 23rd. So there's a large gap there where, there's nothing going on. So Rodgers could stay in California and take care of his people during that time, if that's the case. So why not just sign with Pittsburgh right after mandatory minicamp if you don't want to participate in the OTAs and in the minicamp? Like, we've been talking about that on this show for quite a bit, and I actually kind of understand why Rodgers wouldn't want to participate in OTAs and minicamp. But, there's nothing going on between June 13th and July 22nd, so why extend this all the way out into July when there really isn't any difference between signing on June 13th versus signing on July 22nd. Now, I think there's two explanations that are possible for why Rodgers may kind of wait to sign until July. The first explanation is he's waiting for a quote-unquote better opportunity to open up, whether that's the Minnesota Vikings calling Aaron Rodgers after, J.J. McCarthy has a freak accident, whether that's the Los Angeles Rams and Stafford gets injured or Brock Purdy gets injured or something like that. Maybe Rodgers wants to keep his options open before training camps begin so that he can pick the right team before training camps commence in late July. But I actually think the more likely scenario here, guys, and the more understandable explanation is that he has said publicly that he has people in his life that are close to him, multiple people that are dealing with cancer, and perhaps he is just keeping his option to retire open up until the start of training camp here, because what if the situations of his friends or his family or whoever's dealing with cancer gets worse and he gets to a point where, like, what if he signs with the Steelers right now and then things get a lot worse with their condition later in the offseason, closer to training camp, and he has to retire? Then that's really not going to be a good situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that would probably be a situation where Rodgers would take a lot of flack for signing with the Steelers and then retiring in the same offseason, leaving the Steelers out to dry. But, I think that explanation number 2 is probably the more likely and understandable explanation. If he's going to drag this out into July, I think it would be understandable to some degree that he doesn't want to sign on with the Steelers and then pretty much retire and flake on them if things get worse with the whole cancer situation with the people that are close to him. And I think that Mike Tomlin, who has been in constant communication with Rodgers, he probably is very much aware of this situation. If Rodgers is holding out to sign with the Steelers until pretty much the start of training camp, I think Tomlin is more than aware of that, and he's perfectly okay waiting for Rodgers, and he has a pretty darn good sense that Rodgers will eventually sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers before the start of training camp this year. Now, that doesn't mean that Rodgers still couldn't sign soon. I still think that it's absolutely on the table that Rodgers could announce he's going to sign before mandatory minicamp or even shortly after mandatory minicamp. But this report from Ricky certainly opens up the possibility here for Rodgers to extend this wait all the way into July. So if you think that the wait has already gone on too long, I guess that's too bad, because we might be waiting a whole nother month before we get official word from Aaron Rodgers at this point. So where are you guys at with the whole Aaron Rodgers saga right now? What is the percent chance that Aaron Rodgers is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers' Week 1 starting quarterback this year? Put it on a scale of 0 to 100, 0 meaning no chance he's starting for the Steelers this year, to 100 meaning he is 100% definitely going to be starting Week 1 for the black and gold. Let me know your guys' thoughts down there in the comment section for today's pinned question. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Fanatics. And while I'm telling you about Fanatics today, give me a number between 0 and 100. Okay, now let's talk about somebody that we know is going to be on the Steelers roster this year, and that is DK Metcalf. Just signed a massive new extension, and he's going to be in Pittsburgh for a while. So if you guys want to get his jersey today, he's going to be wearing the number 4 here in Pittsburgh. You can go to chatsports.com/DK and get your jersey today. Also, if you use our link, chatsports.com/DK, that is down in the comments and description of today's show. Click that link and you make a purchase. Fanatics sends us here at Steelers Talk part of the proceeds. That money helps us keep the lights on, pay rent, do all the different stuff that we have to do to keep the lights on and to keep this content free right here on YouTube. So go to chatsports.com/DK. If you're already planning on getting a Metcalf jersey, help out the channel while you're at it. I greatly appreciate your guys' support. All right, so we'll finish up today's morning edition of Steelers Talk by talking about Gabe Davis, who has his official visit with the Pittsburgh Steelers today. He had dinner with the Steelers brass last night, and he is in the facility today. And he's definitely going to be getting a medical check. Now, here's the thing with Gabe Davis. Money is not going to be the issue, okay? Because of the offset clause that he had with the Jacksonville Jaguars in his previous contract, he can pretty much just sign for the vet minimum here in Pittsburgh, which is $1.17 million for somebody that's been in the league as long as he has. He's going to make the same amount of money. So it just doesn't really make sense for Davis to demand any more money because he's going to be paid the same exact amount, most of it by the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's a very similar situation last year to Russell Wilson, who signed for the vet minimum to the Pittsburgh Steelers because he had an offset clause with the Denver Broncos. So if the Steelers sign him today or in the days to come, it's going to be for the vet minimum, and he's going to be extremely affordable. But the biggest question is whether or not Gabe Davis is even healthy, because he did tear his meniscus with the Jacksonville Jaguars that ended his season last year, and he has had free agent visits with both the New York Giants, which, by the way, their head coach Brian Dable coached Gabe Davis in Buffalo And then the San Francisco 49ers also had him in for a visit, and neither team signed him. So that tells me that either Davis decided not to sign with those teams, which is probably unlikely. He's looking for a team right now. Or B, the teams did not like what they saw from his medical checks. All right, now that was a couple of weeks ago. Maybe his meniscus has gotten a little bit better in the weeks to come, and he's more healthy now, and he's going to end up signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Plus, you look at Pittsburgh's medical staff. I mean, they have a history of kind of being lenient with these types of medical concerns, right? They've drafted players like Corey Trice Jr., Troy Fautano, even this year with Derek Harmon, who got flagged for some medical issues, right? This medical staff is definitely a little bit more lenient than some of the other teams in the National Football League. So as long as it's not super serious and it's not like super hindering with his athletic ability, I think that there's a pretty decent chance that the medical staff will clear the Steelers to sign Gabe Davis if they want to. Now, my take on that idea of bringing in Gabe Davis as potentially this team's new number 2 wide receiver is that he wouldn't be my first choice. I think that his skill set is pretty redundant, honestly, with DK Metcalf. He's not as big. He's not as strong. His ball skills aren't as good. He's not as good after the catch. But he still has the same limitations, right? He's kind of a true deep threat, big body, who's a good run blocker, but he's not much of a route runner. So if you're looking for somebody that's going to create separation one-on-one to the short and intermediate levels of the field, I don't think that's Gabe Davis. Plus, I think he's got inconsistent ball skills. He did not have a good season last year with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I think, his numbers were a little bit inflated in Buffalo because, let's face it, he played with one of the best quarterbacks we have ever seen in Josh Allen. So he's going to be super cheap. He team captain there in Buffalo, and a really good teammate and a good guy is what I've heard, and he's a hard worker, all the things, culture fit, all those different things. And he's technically a scheme fit. Arthur Smith loves his bigger receivers that can run block. He is a downfield threat. The Steelers want to throw the ball deep off of play action, and of course, based on their run game. So, technically he is a fit, but I would personally rather go out and still get a guy like Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen, somebody that's a better route runner than Gabe Davis is, maybe slightly more reliable ball skills as well. And then also, the trade options that are still out there. Romeo Doubs of the Green Bay Packers is somebody that I would really love to go get as well. So Gabe Davis isn't my first option, but he is cheap. He's a good culture fit, and he's a good scheme fit. So at the end of the day, the Steelers, I think, could do worse. So let me know down there in the comments section, would you sign Gabe Davis today if he is healthy? If the medical staff clears him and gives you the green light, do you sign him to that vet minimum contract today? Type S for sign or type P for pass. Let me know down there in the comments section. And don't miss out, guys, because if Gabe Davis signs today, we will be going live immediately on this channel. We will also go live no matter what later today at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We have our latest Madden simulation, Week 6 versus the Cincinnati Bengals on Primetime Football. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already for extensive Steelers content all throughout the 2025 offseason.